So this is Memorials Day. I want to talk about all of the historical landmarks that I was upset about being moved out of their land. Now let's talk about this. Is some pamphlet I got from the Jehovah's Witness people. This is what it says: From Egypt to the cities around the world, by the awake writer in Italy. Okay, they have traveled out of the land of their origin, says the Italian magazine Archeo, becoming tangible symbols of the great civilization that had produced them. Most left long ago and were brought to such places as Istanbul, London, Paris, Rome, and New York. Visitors to most famous squares are adorned by their presence. What are they? Obelisks. Each tapering four-faced stone column, known as an obelisk, is crowned by a pointed cusp in the form of a pyramid. The earliest dates come back some 4,000 years ago. Even the most recent one is about 2,000 years old. Obelisks, generally of red granite, were quarried by the ancient Egyptians as monolithic blocks of stone and were erected in front of tombs and temples. Some are huge. The largest still standing rises 105 feet above a Roman piazza and weighs some 455 tons. Most are embellished with hieroglyphs. The monument's purpose was to honor the sun god Re. They were erected to thank him for his protection and for victories granted to Egyptian sovereigns, as well as to request favors. Their shape is thought to have been derived from that of the pyramid. They represented beams of sunlight descending to warm and illumine the earth. Additionally, obelisks was used to glorify the pharaohs. Inscriptions proclaimed various Egyptian sovereigns as beloved of Ra, or beautiful like Atum, who was the god of the sun at sunset. No, the god of the sun at its zenith was Atum, the sun at its full strength. This is said at sunset. All right. One obelisk says of a pharaoh's military prowess: his power is like that of Montu, god of war, the bull that tramples foreign lands and kills rebels. The first obelisks were raised in the Egyptian city of Junu, which is the biblical city called On, and today they call it Cairo. Okay. Thought to mean city of the pillar, perhaps referring to the obelisks themselves. The Greeks called Junu Heliopolis, meaning city of the sun. Since it was the chief center of the Egyptian sun worship, the Greek name Heliopolis corresponds to the Hebrew name Beth Shemesh, meaning house of the sun. The Bible's prophetic book of Jeremiah, speaking of the breaking of the pillars of Beth Shemesh, which is in the land of Egypt, this may refer to the obelisk of Heliopolis. God condemned the idolatrous worship they represented in Jeremiah 43:10-13. So that's what the Hebrews have traditionally been, somebody who has been an adversary to the gods of Egypt. They have always came and spoiled and plundered Egypt. That's why the Egyptian pharaohs always keeps accounts about them taking them prisoner and running them out their land. All right. Extraction and transportation. How obelisks were made is shown by the largest of these monuments. It still lies abandoned near Aswan, Egypt, where it was being quarried. After choosing a promising bed of rock and leveling it, workers excavated trenches around what was to become the obelisk. They dug passages beneath it and filled them with beams until the bottom face was freed. The monolith, which weighed about 1,170 tons, heavier than any other block of stone quarried by the ancient Egyptians, was then to have been hauled down to the Nile and conveyed to its destination by barge. As things turned out, the Aswan obelisk was abandoned when workers realized that it was irreparably fractured. Had it been finished, it would have stood 137 feet high and a base 13 feet square. Whole obelisks were raised upright is still not known to people today. In 30 BCE, Egypt became a Roman province. So from Egypt to the Roman emperors desired to adorn their capital with monuments of great prestige. So as many as 50 obelisks was transferred from Egypt to Rome. Moving them meant building huge ships designed especially for that purpose. Once in Rome, the obelisks continued to be closely associated with the sun worship. When the Roman Empire fell, Rome was ransacked. Most of the obelisks were toppled and lay forgotten. Various popes, however, took an interest in re-erecting the obelisks taken from the ruins of the ancient city. The Roman Catholic Church has acknowledged that the obelisks were dedicated to the sun by the king of Egypt, the Egyptian kings, and that they once brought vain magnificence to sacrilegious pagan temples. The re-erection of the first obelisk during the reign of Pope Sixtus V, 1585 through 90, was accompanied by exorcisms and blessings, as well as the sprinkling of holy water and the burning of incense. I exorcise you, sang a bishop before the Vatican obelisk, to bear the Holy Cross and remain devoid of all pagan impurity and all assaults of spiritual iniquity. So, as a tourist examines the obelisks that stand in Rome today, he may well ponder the genius it took to extract, transport, and raise them. He may also marvel that the monuments used in sun worship adorn the city of the popes. A strange combination indeed. This is what I am historically upset about the Roman Empire and the Roman Catholics, taking everything out of the land of Egypt and then making it Roman, because it belongs to the Egyptian people who are here today talking to you right now. One of them, the Africans in America, are those ancient Egyptian people in the latter days. We are here in America in the West, coming out of the Libyan Empire, and everything historically told us we went west. Or we traveled east and ended up in the west, And now, all of our things, the European Union has built their empire over us, over these African people from the land of Kemet, from Egypt. They have built their whole city. They built everything in their monuments. Those monuments belong in the place where they found them at. They shouldn't have never moved them out. That's why I was reading the Bible earlier. You shouldn't remove our landmarks. Cursed is them who have removed the landmarks of our ancestors, the landmarks of their neighbors, and then enter the land of the fatherless, because our people went to war and maybe the men died in battle. And now the women were raising the young men in Egypt. The women had to take rule. By the time of Cleopatra, she had a son named Caesarion, okay? And Cleopatra's needle to this day is in New York City, in Central Park in New York. And it's now the white people now got control of Africa and all of the things that came out of the land of Egypt, when it belongs to the people they're trying to rule over, the African American. All these things belong to us. So, I mean, this is my biggest thing I want to talk about on this day called Memorial Day. Because they took all of our memorials and landmarks out of the land of Egypt, and now they're all over Europe. That's what I am pissed off about. And cursed is he who have done that. The British, the French, the Spanish, the Germans, all of the European Union and the nations from Europe. That's why the curse of the Pharaoh is on you. So those things don't belong to you, but y'all have built y'all marvelous cities off of these things. And to this day, y'all got a hold on them and don't want to release them to the people they belong to. So I'm going to just give you food for thought right there. On Memorial Day, they shouldn't move our historical landmarks. Okay? And that's the great problem with all of the European nations to this day that's trying to publicate books and teach us about Egypt and teach us about the historical record in the Bible that goes right back to that same place in the land of Egypt. And they know nothing about it. They don't know the full truth about it. They partly true but partly falsified this shit with Hellenism. So this is why I have made this program called the Niggerspedia Negranica. Can you dig it, sucker?